Hey everybody, this is the Sports Counterpoints podcast. Thanks for listening to us. I'm GB. Got Brian and Coop with me. What's going on, guys?
What's going on?
NFL draft.
Man, draft time. I'm so excited that we can. This show is one day before the draft, and I could stop hearing about this. Like, let's just make the picks, man. I've had Michael Penix. I'm getting JJ McCarthy. Brian's getting JJ McCarthy. Bo Nix is falling. Like, man, I just want it over with. So we're gonna talk pretty much all NFL today. We got the QBs who are at the top of the draft, the top three wide receivers, top three pass rushers, what we think our team should do, 49ers, Vikings, and Raiders, and then talk about what we think the top 10 picks might be. So man, let's dive in because this show could easily be 2 or 3 hours, honestly. I'm excited about this time. So starting with the QBs, man. The presumptive number one, Caleb Williams. What do you guys think about him?
Well, I know Caleb Williams is Brian's guy, so I want him to take this one away.
Here's the thing. I'm souring on him real fast, and it's because he just can't shut the hell up.
He's talking. I knew Brian was going to say that. Brian don't want anybody talking, bro.
He just can't shut the hell up, and it does not translate well into the NFL. Look at the quarterbacks that have gone early, that talk a little too much. They all find a way to ruin their own careers. And every time this guy gets on a podcast, now he's sitting there taking shots at the guy who was ahead of him at Oklahoma 3 years ago. Like, man, focus on the future. None of that's to say that I don't think he's the most talented quarterback of the lot. I absolutely think he does. He is. Thought that all season. But I also think that there's just a destiny with Chicago and quarterbacks and busts that can't be explained or avoided. And you add that he's already, turning in that direction with being a loudmouth.
He's been told he's the best of the best for years. So,
yeah, well, that's the problem. I mean, there's no doubt that he has a talent, but does he have the mental game to be able to go into Chicago and focus on learning how to play football instead of all the rest of the BS that's going to come with playing in Chicago? And if he can't even get through pre-draft without yapping, it's a great setup for him to go over there, get distracted, listen to too much about what's going on in the media, there's going to be a lot going on in the media in Chicago, and get sidetracked. And so I think that add what he's doing right now, what his level of professionalism is right now, add Chicago to that mix, and I think he's the best quarterback in the draft who will likely bust in the NFL because of all those circumstances.
Or maybe need a second stop, but go ahead.
Yeah, maybe. For me, look, none of these quarterbacks that we're going to talk about today, in my opinion, none of these quarterbacks we're going to talk about today are a sure thing. I know people are led to believe Caleb Williams is a sure thing, but look, first round picks do not hit as much as people want to lead you to believe. And we all know, we're all not dumb. We know Caleb is going number one, but I think personally he has more of a chance to be a bust than a great quarterback. But if he can be a top 10 NFL quarterback, that's very good. Being a top 10 quarterback is nothing to, scoff about. But there are things that do scare me about Caleb Williams. There's actually 5 things that scare me about. Number one, he doesn't always plant. He doesn't always plant his feet when he throws because he's used to making just these highlight plays. And you can kind of get away with being, not, I guess, fundamentally sound in college, but in NFL that doesn't work. So his footwork definitely needs work. All of Lincoln Riley's quarterbacks win the Heisman Trophy, and they don't necessarily kill it in the pros. I'm not saying Caleb is less talented or as talented as the previous Heisman Trophy winners because he's the most talented of all of them, but doesn't always guarantee success when you come from a Lincoln Riley system. He's only 6 feet tall, so we'll see how that plays out in the league. Number 4 on my list. I just still can't get over that he wrote F Utah on his nails. I mean, it'll be really hard for me to follow the lead of a guy who does that. I just don't know of a leader who would do something like that. I know that doesn't mean anything to a lot of people, but it still means something to me because I still can't believe he did it. And then finally, the last thing, he kind of ad-libs too much. And I know a lot of people say, well, he had to because he played at USC. He had to put up 40 a game. And I get all that. I mean, he was great at USC. Loved watching them. The only reason why I turned on the TV to watch USC was to watch him play. But in NFL, you can't make a living like that. You can't ad-lib that way too much like that. You have to play within the structure of a play, which means you have to take what the defense gives you and not try to make something happen all the time. I'm not saying he can't do it. He can't transform the way he plays, but it's not as easy as people think. But the good thing, and I think people are not talking about it, is Caleb does have talent. He's going to a team with playmakers. He has 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a running back, and a top 15 offensive line. Unlike the last guy, Justin Fields, who couldn't take advantage of that, I expect Caleb Williams to take advantage of that and have a decent rookie season. So he does have some things going for him, but there are also some things he has to clean up to be a top 10 NFL quarterback. So, I can't wait to watch him play like a lot of people, but that's my take on Caleb Williams.
Biggest issue he's going to have, I think, is if we all presume he goes to the Bears. Justin Fields going to that Bears team was a little different just in terms of division. He had Rodgers, and that was kind of the presumptive team that was going to be good, but it was typically them. Vikings always battled. Now, pretty much that whole division has elevated, and everyone's fairly solid. We'll see what the Vikings do from a quarterback situation, but he's got the Lions, you got the Packers, you got squads in there, so it's not like you're coming in there with an easy road. Your division is tough.
There's a lot of talent. Yeah. There's a lot of talent there, but it's so dependent on quarterback success. I'm not saying quarterback play, because I would say that every quarterback in the group last year played pretty well, and that includes Fields, in my opinion. But ultimately, their success was varied. And Goff had an outstanding year. Can he do that twice? That's a big if. Jordan Love had a very good year and showed a lot of promise and got a big contract. Well, he's got his money now. Can he continue to grow?
He got teams around.
I don't know what the Vikings are doing at quarterback. We're going to talk about that, I'm sure, at some point in the next few minutes. And then, now you have Caleb Williams, who's going to be a rookie. A lot of question marks there. But there's no doubt that there's talent in the North. It's just a matter of whether or not teams, coaches, GMs can put it all together and actually make it mean stuff.
GB, this is the same teams Justin Fields played against last year. He didn't play against Rodgers. He played against Jordan Love. So
that's 1 year he's on the way out. We've been talking about the boy being traded for 2 or 3 years. Caleb coming in, once he gets drafted, you figure he's your quarterback for the next 10 in theory, right? So they've already made other moves. I know you don't like Fields, and fine, we could say he had DJ Moore or whoever. I never thought that Bears team was all that. The defense wasn't all that after them years. Rodgers leaves, but Rodgers been gone 1 year. And the Lions have come up. The Vikings have had solid teams. Kirk Cousins was nothing to sneeze at. If he doesn't get hurt, who knows what they do? That's a playoff team. The Lions is a playoff team. So everyone they're facing is a solid team. I say all that to say it's a lot easier to come into a situation that's stable. This one isn't. In a division that's not that good. This one is. You know what I mean? So he also has some stuff stacked against him. And to your points, if you have red flags and you're concerned about a player, and you drop him in this situation. It's not like this is just he's not going to the Chiefs with an Andy Reid and a solid organization, right? I know we talked about the rankings that players didn't say they had some issues, but from a standpoint of a winning organization with a Hall of Fame coach, he's not going to that. So you're not coming from a USC, powerhouse, well known. You're coming to an upstart pretty much. So to Brian's point, your head's kind of got to be on straight because it's a lot different. You get to the league, all that yapping gets shut up real quick. You playing grown men now.
It's easy to get distracted.
Yeah,
and it's easy to say the wrong thing and have your line, let them run a clean blitz on you.
Straight up. Yeah. Hey, even if your line's blocking.
Politics of you see these podcasts with ex-quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks of all great Pro Bowlers, All-Star, Hall of Famers down to guys who were on the bench, and they will all tell you the same thing. The politics of playing quarterback are almost as important as a talent. You've got to get your team to play together for you. You can say the wrong thing or go or pick the wrong teammate to back in an argument or whatever, and it can change the trajectory of your career.
Well, and you come in thinking you're the man, right? Because you're the first pick. You come in with the bread. You got the chain on and come in. You still got to earn yours. So I'm not saying you can't do these things. I just think, to your point you made earlier, Coop, that first pick, man, you come in with a quarterback, the stats say it's way easier to bust than to be great from that first pick, right?
Much
it's just
more
hard.
To bust than
it's just hard, straight up.
And then speaking of that, we could go to Jaden Daniels, who a lot of people have going. It's the second
you have
pick
him
in
as the
draft.
second quarterback.
I was
Do
gonna
I
say
have
let's
him?
do. I was gonna say let's
But
do him.
you were going down a list, so I was just who's
No,
next?
no, no.
on the list?
No, I'm not gonna tell people what I have until the end, my top 10. But I mean, a lot of people have this guy going to Washington. I'm not gonna spend too much time on Jaden Daniels, but
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
you
we
guys
should
know.
because he won a Heisman. So
Well, that doesn't
he's
really
fresh
mean
off
much
it.
to me. I
And
know a
he's
lot
fresh
of
off it.
quarterbacks. I know quarterbacks want a Heisman. I have a thing against quarterbacks that come out of nowhere with that one good year. I don't know. He had 17 touchdowns. His previous year, junior year, and the senior year, he had 40 with 4 interceptions. Outstanding year. He was great. Does that translate to the NFL? A lot of guys only have one good year in college. It doesn't really translate. I'm interested to see what happens. I know he's a good athlete and who can run. He can also throw the ball as well. But I advise him with his build, as skinny as he is, he shouldn't run too much in the NFL. He needs to probably stay in the pocket. So I'm interested to see, how he does in the league. But like I said, one good year in college. I mean, how often does that translate? So that Joey Harrington had one good year and all these other quarterbacks. So I mean, we'll see how it is. But how do you feel about Jaden Daniels, Brian? I don't want to spend too much time on him.
Well, I actually don't think he's that bad.
No, he's not.
So I don't really feel like,
He's not at all.
I actually think that his arm talent is strong. I think where he could get himself into trouble is he gets out of the pocket. He's kind of all over. He's a little bit frail.
Right.
When you see him next to a Lamar Jackson, Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson looks like a big dude, and Jaden
Lamar
Daniels
had to
does
gain
not.
some weight too, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm not. First of all, like you said, I'm not sold that any of these are a guaranteed lock to be successful. But the kid has played pretty darn well.
Yeah.
He did have an MVP. He did have a Heisman winning season. And LSU has turned out some really traditionally good pros. I mean, if you look at the players who have come out of LSU,
Joe.
I would give that organization the benefit of the doubt that he will at least be a solid player. Now, if depending on where you think he's going to get drafted, and what kind of expectations that puts on him, if our expectation is that he is a solid starter for multiple years, I think he can fulfill that. If the idea here is that he has to become a Hall of Famer, All-Pro, perennial Pro Bowler in order to meet the level, that's unlikely to happen for anyone. And I'll take the odds-on favorite that it goes the other direction.
Yeah, I mean, he took way too many hits as a runner from my taste and in the pocket. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I hope it's not another RG3 situation where he just keeps taking a lot of hits and kind of derails his career with injuries. But I know. We'll see. I mean, his arm to me is not that great. It's okay, but we'll see. I mean, Jaden Daniels to me is a wild card here. I want to see how it works out.
Yeah, I think to your point, Coop, I'm gonna say I know how you feel about draft picks, but in these situations, it's very hard to pick to be 100% right on one of these guys.
Yes,
it's just tough,
definitely.
Man. It very rarely works.
And then and then moving on to my guy, Drake May. Again, I like Drake May, but he's not a sure thing. I mean, Nick Saban offered this guy $5 million to go to Alabama, and he didn't do it. I don't know if that helped or hurt him, but what I do know is the second half of last season that he played in North Carolina wasn't impressive at all. And to me, to be honest with you, Brian, I'm thinking that he is probably more of a project, but has a lot more upside than Jaden Daniels. That's just my personal opinion. I don't like the fact that when he plays quarterback, I've seen too many times, he drifts to the left. Even when there's no pressure there, he just drifts to the left. And I don't understand why he does that. In the NFL, you cannot keep doing that, or else you're going to get lit up. So I don't know. I still would draft Drake May, but I wouldn't be like, oh man, I got a for sure thing. But what you think about him?
I haven't been a big fan of him all season. I've been saying it, I thought Caleb was a lot better, and I thought too many people were talking about him. He plays on a team, in a group, in an area where he should be able to run up some video game stats. And yet he did not, right? Last year he had 38 touchdowns. Last year he had 24 touchdowns. Year before he had 38 touchdowns, 24 touchdowns. And a conference that is set up for him to be able to perform with higher numbers, to get big passing numbers, is I wouldn't say concerning, but it is something to take into consideration. And I do think that he has that kind of prototypical college football look, and there's a lot of weight that seems to get put on that when he goes into GMs and coaches, and he kind of has the look. So I say all this, one of 2 or 3 quarterbacks that the Vikings apparently are really interested in is Drake May. I personally think that he is a fringe. His career arc is fringe starter, so he probably starts for quite a while. Or I feel like he's like Sam Darnold. I mean,
oh damn, okay, wow, I wasn't going there. Okay,
he's a guy that will be a backup could be a backup for a long time, that people think is at starting level, who had decent stats in college. Career wise, why wouldn't you? Like, Sam Darnold was kind of thought of as the same kind of guy, and look where he is now. He's the guy who's going to fill in for a season.
There was teams trying to sell the house to get to Sam Darnold's second pick.
I don't see it as Sam Darnold, but I mean, look, I'm not arguing what you're saying. Like I said, it wasn't impressive the last year, and he had some misreads that were pretty bad. I hope he can clean that up when he gets to the NFL, but we'll see what happens. It's definitely not a sure thing. He leaves some throws out there, but I think he has a bigger upside than Jaden Daniels.
I think he is. I think all of these quarterbacks that we're talking about are going to be products of their situation, which is why I'm more keen to be able, because I know what situation Caleb's going to be in, so I can speak a little bit more confidently on how I think that goes. I don't know where Drake May ends up. There's a big difference between ending up in New England or Minnesota and ending up on some of these other teams that are possibilities. And so, I do think that there's no guarantee for any of them, but Drake May, I do think he has a harder path to be great or even very good than some of these other quarterbacks who have a little bit more given talent.
But before you start with Michael Penix, I look at Drake May as a boom or bust player. I think he's going to be either really good or it's going to be really bad. I don't think it's no in between with him. I think it's going to go south or his trajectory.
And I think that depends on the situation he goes into and how he develops. I just think there's a lot of question marks. It's all about finding the right coach who can, if he were going into the Rams, by example, I think that coaching situation would be ideal. Now, the Rams obviously aren't going to be anywhere near drafting him and so on and so forth, but going into the right situation is key. If he goes to Minnesota, I might end up eating my words, because they have a coach who could be very good with a quarterback in a situation that's very optimal for a young quarterback to be able to make some mistakes and have great talent help him out.
Heck yeah.
Tight end and wide receiver or the running back, right? So he could screw it up a little bit, and it won't look as bad as if he's on a bad team where that same missed pass equals an interception every single time.
Yeah.
Well, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Aaron, these are guys that you can miss the pass by a little bit, but they're savvy enough, they're strong enough that they can make it so that it's just a tip pass out of bounds, or even get some of them, and it makes the missed throw not get you benched or not make you see it look as a bust. And that's a big difference on career arc over the first couple of years.
Bro, it's crazy to me how everything, like you said, is situation where you go. Because you think for every guy you mentioned, if somehow, right, they're all going to go first round, but say you got any of them dudes late first round, all of a sudden whatever they do is cool. But now, because you're a first or through third pick, if you aren't a superstar, it's a bust. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting how it works. But sliding,
or if you can't make plays. But Michael Penix.
Before you go to Penix, go to McCarthy, because I think that's kind of what.
To your point, Glenn, a name that is kind of the crown jewel of the example of a bad situation creating a good quarterback that could have been a good quarterback was David Carr. When he went to Houston, it was a wrap, and he could have been a decent quarterback elsewhere.
But
he just, bad
The
situation
injuries.
never worked out.
Yeah,
And you
injuries
never
took a
get the
toll.
and you never get the shot again. You know what I mean?
Well,
So,
the injuries killed his career. He was injured by fourth year. He was done.
Yeah.
You know, he was completely done.
He took more sacks in his first 4 years in the league than anyone in history.
Right.
yeah, I think he still has that. So
Sack
give me
and hand
your,
hits.
give me your thoughts on McCarthy first, and then we'll go to Penix. I'm just going off kind of what
Okay.
you know.
That's all good. Go
all the
ahead,
TVs
B.
are
Start with
saying.
McCarthy.
So McCarthy, I think, is absolutely the most dependent on his situation. He's also the one that seems most likely to end up on the Vikings if you read mock drafts and blogs and all that other stuff. But if he ends up in a decent situation, and I think the Vikings are a decent situation for a new young quarterback, I think he could be a solid plus quarterback. I don't think he has greatness in him. I think that you have the program that they had in Michigan. I think a lot of people are thinking, he kind of played the same way as that Tom Brady guy in college, and they put so much weight. And he's also another guy who looks like the quarterback that teams want when he walks in the room, and I think he gets a lot of credit for that. That's not to say that he's not talented, but he's just a good quarterback who is they're seeing greatness in him because he has the look, because he has Harbaugh as his coach, because he came from Michigan, because Tom Brady came from Michigan and was a little bit similar, and so people were kind of it's kind of going in that direction. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah. So I laugh at quarterbacks that are not asked to do anything in college that's like NFL-ish, and then they're projected first round picks. RG3 was one of them. JJ McCarthy is another one. His comparison that everybody's comparing him to is Alex Smith, which to me is not a good thing, because Daniel Jones's comp was Alex Smith, and we see how that worked out.
But wait a minute. Again, that was that solid to solid plus type quarterback. Alex Smith was solid. Was a solid plus type
Alex
quarterback.
Smith was not solid. Alex Smith, if Alex Smith is your comp, that means you have to have a head coach, offensive line, running back, playmakers, an excellent kicker, because he's not stretching the field on third down, because you're going to have a lot of field goal opportunities. You got to have a good punter.
Because we've already established, man, you expect everyone to be
he doesn't.
Hold on.
No, I don't.
Let him finish. But also, you just described Mahomes too, which is funny.
You need a good punter. You need a good punter, because he doesn't. No, I didn't, because Mahomes converts. Mahomes converts third downs.
Head coach,
Alex
kicker,
Smith does
offensive
not.
line. But anyway,
Alex Smith does not. Alex Smith does not convert third downs. You got to play a field possession game when you have Alex Smith. You don't do that with Mahomes. You have a very good defense
for time,
and a very good offensive line.
Go back to JJ. Let's cut off Alex for time, please.
This man is being compared to Alex. Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill. Alex Smith played an entire season with Tyreek Hill and didn't throw a touchdown pass to a wide receiver. They are not the same quarterback. If you need everything to line up for your guy to be good, you're describing 95%.
Back to JJ.
You're describing 95% of NFL, and that's what you need if you have JJ McCarthy on your team. You need 95% of your team legit. If you have any area, any position unit on your team that is lacking, then you're done. And that's what Alex Smith was when he was the 49ers. If he didn't have everything when he first got there.
Are we talking about JJ McCarthy? Are we talking about Alex Smith?
His comp is Alex Smith. They are the same.
I've seen it on one website, man. We don't need to quote ESPN.
You give JJ McCarthy everything like he had at Michigan, he will be productive. The problem is he's not going to have everything when he gets to the NFL. So I don't have a high hope for him at all. Just like I didn't have a high hope for Daniel Jones. Look how he's looked. Does he have everything in New York? No. And he's terrible. I got New York Giants. What the New York Giants going to do? They need to draft a quarterback. But anyway, JJ McCarthy, Alex Smith, Daniel Jones are the same player. I don't have high hopes for JJ McCarthy to do anything in the league. Sorry.
Right. Give me your thoughts on Penix.
Go ahead, Brian. You start with Penix. I know you love him a lot.
I like Penix. I think he has the perfect situation, and that the expectations on him are so relative to him. Like, he's thought of as a second round guy who could get moved up into the first round because there's a lot of need for quarterback. Cool. If he gets drafted at 11 or 15 or wherever it is, he still has that kind of second round grade that he's trying to outperform. That's a lot easier to do. He was successful and healthy while his last years at Washington. And I think he's a talented quarterback who can put up numbers. He also played in a conference that's very heavily offense, and he put up those video game numbers that Drake May couldn't put up. So I do think that obviously, like everyone we've talked about, the situation that he's in matters almost as much as how good a quarterback as he is. But I think that because he's going to go a little bit further down, he's going to go to teams that have a little bit better setup right now, because they're not the lottery. We don't have a lottery, but they're not at the top of the draft. That he has a better chance of outperforming the expectations that are going to be put on him, because he's not going to be drafted in the top 3 or 4. And so I like the opportunity that he has.
Cool.
Yeah, Michael Penix is. I think he's probably under 6 feet, but look, he's better than McCarthy. He's better than Bo Nix, but I just don't see the upside with him. I mean, he's the guy. I love Michael Penix. I would like him to be good, but he scares me, because people want to ignore the fact that he's an older quarterback who ended every season when he played at Indiana injured. He played against Washington. He played against Oregon and Michigan last year. He didn't look comfortable against Oregon. Defense got after him, and against Michigan, he looked overwhelmed. Looked very overwhelmed, and left that game hurt as well. So, and this is a Michigan defense. This is not even an NFL defense, and he couldn't play fast enough. Like I said, I know college injury history doesn't scare people, but these are the same people that are surprised when the same people who have that college injury history get hurt in the pros. And I just think that constant quarterback injuries or nagging injuries, in addition to, I don't care about really losing, but the fact that he looked overwhelmed against Michigan, is probably a pass for me, though I do want him to do well. I just don't know how he stays healthy for, a 10-year career to bank a first-round pick on it. Now, maybe second, third, yeah, I would take a flyer, but a first-round pick, you really have to hit on those. And his injury history just really scares me. I mean, I would love to take him, but that's just a lot for me on Michael Penix. It really is. Sure. But I want him to do well.
Yeah. What about
Bo Nix? I have nothing to say except, he needs a lot of space to operate, and NFL just doesn't allow quarterbacks to be that comfortable consistently in games like they are in college. You can go an entire season in college and get sacked less than 5 times. I've seen it happen, but Bo Nix is not even really on my radar, Brian and Glenn, to be, any good. I don't know how you feel about him, B.
I think he's, it's funny because everyone always makes these comments about Penix, and Bo Nix is older.
True.
Forget about that.
Yeah, that's right.
He's going to be the 3rd oldest behind Brandon Whedon, Jim Druckenmiller, and then it's Bo Nix ahead of Chad Pennington and Ryan Tannehill. But anyways, look, Bo Nix is going to be a 2nd-round quarterback. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The expectations for 2nd-round quarterbacks is to be a solid backup with some upside to maybe scoot into a starting role given the situation's right. He could do that. He could also not do that. And I also don't think it matters as much. So, Bo Nix has a better opportunity, again, because he's going to get drafted later, to outperform his draft stock. And that is the advantage of being Penix or Nix, is that you don't have that top 3 price tag, and you don't have those top 3 expectations. And you're going to get 2-3 years on the roster because they don't have to figure out if they're going to go spend another first-round pick on them in the next 2-3 years, right?
And potentially on a better team. That happens too. Guys like that get drafted by the Rams, get drafted by, some team you get to sit and you
get a good coach, get a good QB coach, go in there, listen, do your job, and things could work out. If they don't, you're still going to be relatively rich.
I could see Bo Nix being out the league in 5 years. It's just, he played.
Most players are out of the league in 5 years. That would be a great career for most people drafted in the 2nd round.
A lot of players, a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, you have to get used to playing under center. He only played under center 7 times last year, and just regular throws, it just seems like, I don't know. I just don't think Bo Nix is just an NFL quarterback pretty much. I just don't see it working. And if he's out the league in 5 years, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. Well, if you draft a person first, 2nd round, you should last a little longer, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Historically, the 5 years would be, the reason that they make, I think it's 6 or 7 years to get a pension is because most players never get to a point of getting a pension. 5 years is a long NFL career for anyone. If we look at draft for quarterbacks, we definitely know whether they're going to be good or not. And unless you're, what's his name? Who's the guy from Purdue that just stayed in the league forever?
Drew Brees.
No, not Drew Brees. The backup. He played in Chicago.
Oh, his name is Kyle Orton, I think.
Kyle Orton. There we go.
Yep.
Most
Kyle
people
Orton
are not Kyle Orton. Like most people are 5 years and out, but Kyle Orton figured it out, and he's stuck in the league forever.
Yeah.
Wait, are you talking about Orlovsky or?
No. It was Kyle Orton.
It was Kyle Orton. He went to Purdue.
That also had a bunch of pictures with.
Man, I'm thinking of McGowan. That's why he played for every team in the league, I think.
Yeah. But anyways, most people aren't that, right? Like, so most of them are in 5 years. Most of these quarterbacks, we know who they are and what they're going to be and what their upside is, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. Yep. You want to talk about the top 3 receivers everybody's talking about?
Start with Marvin Harrison's son, man. Marvin Harrison Jr. Pops had a Hall of Fame career. Was a beast. His son's taller than him, and is he doesn't have the temperament so far from what I've been seeing, but the dude got hands. He's taller.
Well, he's definitely the safest wide receiver to pick in this draft. Of course, like I said, you said he has his dad, Marvin Harrison Sr., who was a baller. He always got open in college. He was always open against any DB. He was always open. He has a very good catch radius. You put the ball anywhere, like Brian was saying earlier. You put the ball somewhere, like you do Justin Jefferson. Somebody, it's the incomplete passes won't happen too many times if you throw the ball in their area. The one thing I like about
passes may happen, but not picks.
But not picks. Yeah. Well, yeah. But one thing I like about Marvin Harrison is the way he changes directions. And I know you say all wide receivers change directions, yes, but some wide receivers, I'm not saying they struggle, but it doesn't look effortless like Marvin Harrison does. He can just get in and out of routes and change directions very effortlessly. I'm not comparing him to Jerry Rice, but Jerry Rice was able to do that. So was Chris Carter. They were able just to move in and out in their routes effortlessly, and that works in the pros because you will get open in the pros if you can do that. So I just think he's just the safest pick in the draft, and he should go in the top 5 to 10. What about you, B?
100% agree with everything you just said. Marvin Harrison Jr. is absolutely the safest pick in the draft because he has prototypical height at 6'4", 205, super athletic, has the quote, and put that in air quotes, the pedigree. I don't know whether or not he's going to become Justin Jefferson or any of these other superstar wide receivers, but if there was someone, if someone said you got to pick someone to rest your hat on, I would pick Marvin Harrison out of this draft.
Yep.
Yeah. The second receiver, I don't know how you feel about him, Brian, but Malik Neighbors will probably be the wide receiver that I would draft. He has speed and elite ball tracking skills. And he has that Randy Moss ability. I'm not saying he's Randy Moss, but he has that Randy Moss ability. When he would run routes, Randy Moss, he would show his hands at the very last second. That's a big advantage over defensive backs because he would know where the ball is at, but the DBs wouldn't. By the time he shows his hands, he has the ball in his hand for a completion. And he has that. Malik Neighbors has that. He's not Randy Moss, but he has that I guess that characteristic that Randy Moss has. In addition, LSU over recent years, let's be honest, has been a factory for productive NFL receivers. My only drawback, though, he's not very strong, so he could struggle in the NFL against press coverage, but I think Malik Neighbors could ball in the NFL, and he would be the one I would draft first. I don't know how much you've seen of him, B. What do you think about him?
I've seen a lot of them, actually. Okay. LSU wide receivers are, they're always worth watching.
Yep.
The problem is not only that he's not as strong, but he's also short. He's only 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
And so that does not mean he can't be successful, but I do think that I don't know that I think he's a slot guy who can outperform the slot more than he's going to go on the outside like these 6'5", 6'4", super athletes. But I do think that Malik Neighbors is likely to be very productive. I would still take Marvin Harrison as the best one in the draft. He's absolutely the safest. But I think we're going to talk about another one in a second. We're only talking about 3. If I had to pick 3 offensive players that were going to be safe, it would be the 3 wide receivers we're talking about right now. Malik Neighbors being number 2. So
you start with the third, just to see if we're on the same page.
So Rome Odunze from Washington is the third guy. I think that he is the sleeper wide receiver. So every year there's a wide receiver that people are not necessarily super high on, like a Marvin Harrison, who ends up being really, really good, right? We've seen it with Rasheed Rice. We've seen it with, Cooper Kupp. We've seen it with, who's the dude in the Rams now from BYU?
Pakua.
Yeah, Pakua. There's always someone who you look at it on film and you're like, yeah, he's pretty solid. And then you see him in the game and it just fits him. Rome Odunze, I think, could very well be that guy this time around.
I'm with you. I believe the same thing. He's big like Marvin Harrison too. He's 6'3", 212.
Yeah, 6'3".
The one thing I like about this guy, he's very, very good in contested areas. He can really get the ball when, he has really good hands, especially in contested areas. And he has that where he can extend his arm out, like really good arm extension, and still hold on to the ball with body control. That he has really good hands. I like that. And I'm with you. I think he could be a sleeper. Doesn't really have that vertical.
A third receiver, so he ain't gonna be too sleepy.
But there's always
people not talking about him though.
Yeah,
like that.
People are not talking about him like
these the three
like
receivers
that.
everybody's talking about, man. I'm reading stuff every day.
So here's his success. Brian is going to be if he can separate consistently from NFL DBs. I think you have a legit guy here because he didn't face many press man coverages and stuff in college. So, playing in this Pac-12 or whatever. So if he can break that, he can get past press coverage or man coverage consistently in NFL. I mean, sky's the limit. This guy's going to be a legit receiver in NFL, definitely.
So there's a lot of mock drafts. I shouldn't say a lot. I've seen 4 mock drafts.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a million out there, so maybe 4 is not a lot. But I've only looked at maybe 8 or 9 of them that have the second Chicago pick going with Rome Odunze and Caleb.
Well, you had him with Keenan Allen and DJ. You got squad.
That's a squad right there.
That's right. Keenan Allen is with Chicago Bears too. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that could be a situation where maybe the stats don't even show just how awesome that group is because there's a lot of talent. But you put Caleb with that type of receiving talent, it could be great for everyone involved.
Give yourself a shot. Heck yeah.
If y'all want to talk about pass rushers or just move on to our top 10 picks, like 3 pass rushers, or
I don't have much to say about the top 10 because we won't be able to get the 10 picks is a lot of picks for us.
Yeah. No, 10 picks. Just go 1 through 10 right now. Just who you think they're going to
do it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, number 1, Caleb Williams. I'm not even going to talk about that.
Moving on.
Number 2, Jaden Daniels. People say Drake.
And you're saying no. We're doing no trades because you can't do trades just straight up.
You can do trades.
You can say that there's a trade.
You can say trades. Yeah. Okay. Washington, I got Jaden Daniels only because I don't put Drake May here because, like I said earlier, he's a project to me. And I think Adam Peters, he was with the 49ers when they drafted Trey Lance, who was a project, didn't work out. So I think he's going to go with more of a commodity that might be more known. So I think
too.
Yeah. So I think Jaden Daniels is the guy for Washington. New England, I think they should trade back because they got holes everywhere. But
wait, we're gonna do 1 for 1, or are we gonna do?
Oh, my bad. Okay, go Chicago and Washington. My bad, B. Go ahead. Yep.
So Caleb, obviously at Chicago, we can move forward from there. I actually think that there's a possibility that Washington messes this up and goes with Drake May. But we'll see. And I think a lot of that has to do with they want someone whom they can market as the on that team. And it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to market a Drake May or a McCarthy anywhere, but especially And and
think
so
DC,
they may make the mistake here. So I'm gonna put Drake May here. Just because I think very little of the Washington Commanders and the organization.
Yeah, well,
and I think they make the mistake.
Well, the lieutenants, they could, but I just think previous sports history impacts you as a sports executive. And I think Adam Peters probably remembers that Trey Lance thing, but we'll see. So I'll let you start with number 3. What's going to happen number 3? Is New England going to trade or keep this pick?
So I think if Drake May is there, they draft him. I think if Jaden Daniels is there, they trade. And I think that the person that they would likely trade with are the Vikings. This is not what I think. We're going to talk about this separately, what I want the Vikings to do or what I think they should do. I think this might be what ends up happening, and they do end up doing. But at 3, I think it will be Jaden Daniels with a trade, probably to the Vikings.
Okay, so I've said I think New England should trade back. They just don't have a roster. They don't have any playmakers anywhere. They can get Peyton Manning coming out of Tennessee. He wouldn't turn this thing around. This is a very bad spot for any quarterback.
So 2 first rounds this year and 1 next year is probably way more than they should give, but a great steal for New England.
Yeah. I think New England keeps it because they're getting killed in the media, and I think they just want to, shut people up, whatever, and get a quarterback. I don't think they get Drake May. I think Drake May is too much of a project. I think McCarthy is more of a known commodity coming off a national championship. I don't think McCarthy's better, but he's coming from Michigan, playing for Harbaugh, coming off a national championship. I think the pick is going to be J.J. McCarthy. I think New England's going to screw it up and draft him.
I think that if that does happen, it destroys J.J. McCarthy's career because a Michigan guy going to New England to New England is never going to be able to get out of the Tom Brady shadow.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I'm gonna let you start. B, number 4, Arizona. What did they do?
I think they trade down, but I don't know what that trade looks like. So I'm going to assume that they are going to keep the pick for the sake of conversation because I can't figure out where they're going to get to and who's going to be there and all that stuff.
Okay.
And I think that if they're there, I would assume that they're going to take a wide receiver.
Okay. So, Arizona, they said they're not Marvin Harrison. Okay. They said they're not in the market for a quarterback, and they have another first-round pick. I don't think they keep this pick. I think they traded to the New York Giants. The Giants are ashamed. They got excited for somebody named Tommy DeVito at quarterback. This is where I think Drake May goes. Now, Drake May, I'm not saying that I agree, but Drake May has been compared to Josh Allen. I think that's a little far because Allen's athletically, more superior. But that being said, Josh Allen was more of a project than Drake May. He didn't have a season like Drake May had in 2022 in college. He wasn't nearly as productive as he was. When Josh Allen was his best, Brian Daboll was his offensive coordinator. Who was the head coach and offensive play guard for the Giants? Brian Daboll. Who was the assistant GM of the Bills when they drafted Josh Allen? Joe Shane. Who was the GM of the Giants? Joe Shane. I think this makes too much sense. Daniel Jones is coming off he's just not any good anyway. I just think Drake May goes to Arizona. San Diego has the.
I would say if I think if the Giants trade
Drake May trades it. Wait, you think Drake May is going to go to?
So Arizona trades the picks to the Giants, and then Giants draft Drake May. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. Go ahead, B.
Oh, I was just saying that if the Giants trade up into that spot, that I think they end up actually taking Marvin Harrison. I think Marvin Harrison goes in that spot.
Oh, okay. All right. Number 5, Chargers. Yep. Go ahead. Take it.
Everyone, I don't know enough about how teams established a line, but everyone seems to agree that the Chargers need an offensive lineman. So I'm going to go with the offensive lineman here. The one that's at the top of the food chain seems to be this Talisi Fuaga. I had to look to make sure I didn't really mess up his name. So I'm gonna call offensive lineman, and because I don't know them all that well, I'm picking the one at the top of the list, is Talise Fuaga.
Okay. I thought a lot of people were saying that they should take a wide receiver. Yeah. And my question to all those people is, have you followed Jim Harbaugh's career? His offense has never been relying on a wide receiver. Yep. Harbaugh's all about the line of scrimmage, right? The running game and the quarterback playing under control. I mean, Jim Harbaugh will talk about the importance of an offensive lineman for hours if you let him. He doesn't want Herbert chucking the ball 40 times a game. He wants him to be efficient. So I think they take offensive lineman as well, Brian. I think they take Joe Alt from Notre Dame. He's a big 6'7", 300 some guy.
He was the number 2 guy on the PFF list.
Yeah, that's all you asked. Yep.
I think they take him. Number 6, because of the trade, I have Arizona right here. And I think they rushed to take Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think it's going to take, 13 minutes for them to make up their mind of the 15 or 20 minutes that they get. I mean, of course, NFL just does that to help their television partners and everybody make money, but it's a no-brainer pick. They'll probably rush to the guy and let him know, Roger Goodell, and within 30 seconds, and we're taking Marvin Harrison Jr. Who you got at number 6, Brian?
That'd be a
so because I think that if there is a trade and Arizona ends up here, I would take Malik Neighbors. So I think it's a wide receiver either way here. And I think either way, I think it's a wide receiver. If it's the Giants, it's Malik Neighbors. If it's the Arizona Cardinals, it's Malik Neighbors. Because I think that in the 4 spot, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going.
All right. Number 7, who you got? Tennessee has the number 7 pick.
Yeah, they need a lineman. Joe Alt was number 2 on the list. So you could change Talisi with Joe Alt or whatever you want to do. Lineman, moving on.
Okay. Tennessee, I know everybody's saying they would take offensive lineman. I think they take Malik Neighbors. I think this is the year. I said last year. I said last year when we did our football preview, I said no more excuses for Justin Fields. He has enough weapons to make something happen, and he didn't. This is how I feel about Will Levis this year. He has, Calvin Ridley. He has DeAndre Hopkins. He'll have Neighbors, and he has Tony Pollard in the backfield. If he can't prove that he can play with this type of cast, then you got to move on. They'll be in the market for a quarterback next year. There's no more excuses. There's enough talent to win or play better.
They drafted QB back here. Go on.
Yeah, so that's who I got. I got Malik Neighbors going to Tennessee. I'll start with Atlanta.
I don't think he's going to be there, but that makes sense if he was.
Right.
No.
Number 8 is Atlanta. They picked every skill guy on offense the past few years, and they still can't get it done because they haven't figured out you need a quarterback to play with them. But
they got him now.
Raheem Morris is a defensive guy who's a new head coach for for Atlanta. I remember Raheem Morris because he got fired in Tampa Bay for partying with the players all the time, but he got a second chance. Good for him. He was in with the Rams when Aaron Donald was there. So because of that, and he sees how the impact of Aaron Donald was with the Rams or on the whole league. I think he takes Byron Murphy, who has similar characteristics as Aaron Donald. Not saying he is Aaron Donald, but he has similar. I think they go with Byron Murphy, the D tackle. I think from Texas. I think he went because their pass rush is terrible.
As well, so
really,
keep it moving.
Okay, go ahead. Go. Who number 9? Who you got?
So that's the Bears again, and I have Dunze going there as the next pick for the Chicago Bears.
That'd be a hell of a draft, boys.
So for Chicago, I think they trade this pick, and I think they trade it to a very desperate team, and that's the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are in need for some juice. Winning games defensively is not going to get it done for a 17-game season. I don't care what Minshew or O'Connell did last year. They ain't going to cut it either. I think the Raiders draft Michael Penix. If Penix wasn't an injury risk, I think he'll be a top 3 pick. The GM for the Raiders, Tom Telesco, came from the Chargers. He drafted Herbert. Why? Because he has a strong arm. He has a very strong arm.
Down, he had the 5th pick. He didn't trade down, but go ahead.
Yeah, he has a strong arm. Antonio Pierce claims he's a Raider. He knows the Raider way. What is Al Davis like? Athletic DBs, fast wide receivers, and quarterbacks that can chuck it. Penix can chuck it downfield, and I believe they trade up to get Michael Penix with this pick, number 9.
I don't disagree that Penix ends up there. I just don't think they need to make a trade to do it because on my board, McCarthy and Penix are still on it, and I think that they can wait till 13 to take Penix there, which would still be early, and I do think is a good fit.
Yeah. And lastly, number 10, the New York Jets. This is another desperate franchise. They have to win right now. Robert Saleh and his staff would have been fired, but Aaron Rodgers' injury kind of bought them another year. They have to win. I think they take the tight end, Bowers from Georgia, who I think is going to be very good. He's more of that Travis Kelce mode where he's not really a true tight end, more of a slot wide receiver kind of guy, but I think he's going to be very productive in the NFL. What about you, B?
That would be a good pick.
I have the same pick going to Bowers for a lot of the same reasons. I don't think it necessarily works out. Aaron Rodgers has never really been a guy who throws the tight end. They have brought tight ends into Green Bay, that had some skills, and he just never really uses them in that way. I do think Bowers is different because he is more of a big wide receiver than he is a traditional tight end. But I just don't know that necessarily works out. And then he also, Rodgers always has trust issues with rookies, which is why he's always trying to bring the guys that he's played with before. So I think that the Jets will make that pick. I'm just not sure it works out the way that everyone thinks it should because Aaron Rodgers is not the guy who throws to young tight ends.
At least for 1 year, as he's a quarterback,
That was good, guys. I was on the edge of my seat. That was fun. I kind of want to see y'all do the rest. Like, that was fun. Interesting, man. I think y'all did a good job. What about as we're getting to it, we're making a good time right now. So what about our teams? What do you think your team?
Yeah, well, number 11 would be the Vikings.
There you go. Perfect segue.
So look, there's stupid rumors that are going around, which was like, hey, they're going to trade 3 first-round picks and try and get Herbert so that Harbaugh can get pick. I don't think that's realistic, but I would be elated if we were trading for someone like Herbert. I'm worried that they're going to try and trade up to take someone in the top 4 instead of just being patient and waiting. What I think they should do is be patient and wait. Penix and or McCarthy will land here, in my opinion. And either one of those 2 quarterbacks in the situation that the Vikings have would be a better pickup. And they would keep 2 first-round picks, 1 more this year and 1 more next year, which will help them build talent. also they have cap issues. So trying to trade your first round picks where you can get somebody at reasonable cap numbers and instead having to bring in off the market talent is not the best way to go. The way you work with your cap issues is you capitalize on your draft picks, find talented players at low costs that are locked in for multiple years. So I think the Vikings should keep their picks, be patient here, accept that McCarthy or Penix will be here, and whoever it is, they should draft, and move on move forward from there. I think I think almost certainly that on the second pick they're going to take Latu, if they have the pick, I should say. They're going to take the UCLA player. So Dave, who I'm sure is hopefully listening to this right now, there is something about the Vikings and UCLA edge players.
Yeah.
We do it all the time. It almost always works out for them. And I think that history probably repeats itself. And I think that's what they should do. I don't know what they're going to do, and I know that there's a lot of people talking about how desperate they are to get a quarterback and they want to trade into the top 3 or 4 because they want to be able to pick their guy instead of have their guy pick them. What I mean by that is hoping that the guy that they want falls down. But a little bit of patience goes a long way in these drafts. And I don't care how many times we predict it and all these other people predict it. These things never go like people think it's going to go. There's some pick that's going to be in the top 4 or 5. That's just we're all going to be like, what the hell?
Right. A head scratcher. Yeah. Yeah. Real talk.
Malik Neighbors going before Marvin Harrison, or, Drake May going before Jaden Daniels, or McCarthy going before either of those 2 guys, or whatever. There's going to be something that's just going to throw us for a loop. But 11 isn't that far away to go. And the Vikings need more help in the places that they need help than they can get if they just trade up. So
those are great. Very well said, B. I kind of feel the same way about us. I'm gonna just go with the Raiders, obviously, because we're gonna have the pick closest to them if we stay where we are. And then Coop, you guys can be at the end of the draft.
Yeah.
I heard what you were saying, Coop, but I honestly think, one, I'm happy that we got a veteran GM, because I think that may preclude us from doing something stupid like we have in the past and reaching. I think they can probably wait too. If they do want a quarterback, one of them dudes is going to be there if they're really trying to wait. But what I would do, and especially with these guys, need to hit on this pick, right? And we've all been talking about how quarterbacks are risky. At this early in the draft, even up to 13 is a risk. If you're going to take Penix, who I think is good, the injury history, et cetera, is risky. If you take linemen hit at a higher rate, cornerbacks hit at a higher rate, there's actually quarterbacks are a little bit lower, but linemen, guards, centers, those players hit at higher rates. You fortify that line, because our line is not. We only have one guy that's signed long term. Colton Miller looked good; he's there. Everyone else is in flux. If we can get one of those top linemen, Fasanu from Penn State, if Waga's there, one of these guys could be sitting there. You don't have to move. And to Brian's point about trying to jump and lose a pick, I don't know that Telesco's is willing to do that. Everyone talks about the Herbert pick, but that pick was another one that fell into his lap. They had the 5th pick. Tua went, Herbert went. What else was he going to do? He was right there, right? So I'm hoping that we stand pat. They make a smart pick that's going to hit, get one of those linemen. Those guys have long careers, 10 years in the game, having a strong lineman, and I know everyone like, you need a quarterback. There's a chance Penix is still there, because everything we're talking about, everyone else knows. So all the injury history, everything that's out there, I do not, in my opinion, if I had my say, don't jump to get Penix. I like Penix, and a lot of that is because of, the splash plays, his arm, dude has a cannon, and Madden, let's keep it real, if we do get him, I'm on your head on Madden. Love it, right? But from building a football team standpoint, what they're trying to do, to me, fortify that line, or even get one of the corners, because that defense was playing solid. Get a solid lineman. Yeah, we have O'Connell and Minshew. No, not superstars, but you start building a team around them, get those lines fortified, get a corner. You can start making some moves. It's not only the draft is the only way to get a quarterback. There's trades, etc.
I was gonna say, we'll trade you on Friday. We'll trade you Sam Darnold.
I mean, but like on some joke type stuff, like, you take a year, we've seen it happen before. You make the right picks, the next year a quarterback becomes available. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't get hurt, the Jets could be looking like geniuses, right? Because they had all the other portions of the team built to a degree. So to me, get a lineman, get one of those other positions that hits further, make the smart pick, don't reach. We've had too many, shout out to dude Alex Leatherwoods and all these other guys who just didn't pan out. Make a smart pick, stay where you're at, get that, or even, it, depending on how this draft goes, like y'all said, Penix could still be there. Maybe you go a pick or two back. So I don't know. To me, just make the smart pick. We don't need to jump for a quarterback, in my opinion. People are talking about Jaden Daniels and AP. I like the idea, but I'm not trying to trade to get to the third pick. How many picks are you trading to try and get Jaden Daniels in the hopes that he's going to be who you saw in high school? Nah. Make the smart pick, stay where you're at, and carry on. Cool.
Yeah. For me, mine's real simple. I want the 49ers to get an offensive lineman, even if it means trading up. I just think if you're going to invest, in Brock. Yeah, I mean, you're going to invest in Brock Purdy, and you're going to pay him a lot of money. You might want to do what New England did with Tom Brady and protect the man. I don't never remember Brady ever having a bad offensive line, but you're going to have to protect them. Trent Williams is getting older. He's not going to play forever. If I had to pick which lineman they would get, I would want to get the guy from Washington. I can't pronounce his last name, but his first name is Troy. And the reason why I want him is because he's 6'4", he's 315, but he's very, very good at pass blocking. And that's
he's going to be long gone.
Well, I think the 49ers are going to trade up.
Yeah, this pick could be crazy.
Okay, you think maybe they'll trade up for it? I was going to say, he'll be long gone. He's off most people's boards between 13 and 17, 18.
He's in the teens, yes. Yeah, I think the 49ers trade up in the teens to get a lineman. He won't start. Yeah, he won't start off at tackle. I think he'll start at guard, but still, it's an upgrade from what we have right now. You got to protect your quarterback and get some time for him to pass. So. So that's it. I'm being real quick with mine. I just hope they get a lineman first and not draft defensive lineman.
I'm just putting this out there just in case it's right because I think it's a flaw. I think you guys are going to end up with a defensive player named Robinson, and the reason I'm saying that and it's vague is that there's two edge players that are kind of first round draft picks that are named Robinson. So one of the two of those guys is a Darius and Chop Robinson and Darius Robinson, one from Missouri, one from Penn State. I think the team is trying to figure out what to do with Chase Young and that role. Chase Young.
No, Chase Young is gone.
That's what he's saying.
I know.
We don't need him.
You need to draft someone to put in the spot that he used to have.
I don't think so.
And so I think a guy.
We'll see.
I'm just throwing it out there just in case.
Right. We'll see.
That's more of a Penix throw to the end zone.
Right.
Man, the only reason I can see it is because I've been talking about this line issue for years, and every year we think they're going to do it, and they don't, and they get a defensive player.
Every year. Yeah.
So I think they got to know if you like Brock, like you say, you got to protect the man. You're right.
Yeah. The guy, I don't know if you guys have a guy that interests you, but a guy that interests me, especially Brian, you might know that guy Latu at UCLA.
Yeah, that's what you're
that's the guy I said we're going to take it 25.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he interests me because
that's the guy. I think we're going to take it to.
Yeah, he went to UW and he had a neck injury. He's like a medical red flag. He had a neck injury. Then he medically retired. Shows up out of nowhere, goes to UCLA and has 23 sacks in 2 years. So the question is, do you draft this guy hoping that he stays healthy? I mean, he was productive the last 2 years at UCLA. He interests me.
The Vikings love UCLA edge guys.
Really? Okay. Oh yeah, you guys got the other guy from UCLA. You're right. Yeah. So
it's like 4 or 5 of them. Linebackers, edge guys off the defense. We love them.
Yeah.
The guy that I'm kind of intrigued by, who I think is going to go a little bit obviously deeper, but I think could end up being an interesting player to follow is Brendan Rice.
Okay.
There's the obvious reasons, but he had a very good season with Caleb Williams at USC this past year, was scoring touchdowns and buckets. He has some talent. Obviously, he's got the name and the pedigree.
He's going to be later in the draft too.
And he's going to go later in the draft. And so he's one of those folks that, if I have rookie drafts next year that go a little bit deeper, I'm absolutely putting him on my dance card because he's somebody who you're going to be able to get for nothing, both in the draft and will, I think, easily exceed his draft level. But I'm interested just to see how it goes.
Oh, you don't want Luke McCaffrey or Frank Gore Jr.? You don't want none of them?
Nope.
Okay. All
I
right.
mean, you
Just
start
asking.
talking
They're not,
third rounds, fourth
they could be
round.
okay. Yeah.
Straight up.
But I just Brendan Rice, for whatever reason, he's not on. If we looked at the list of all the wide receivers and they go down 15, 20 deep, he ain't on it. And he's better than a lot of those guys who are, in my opinion.
It's tough for me when you're one of them guys. Like I'm hoping because Marvin's son is like kind of quiet, and I think he might have the kind of grind to him. Jerry's son looked like he was kind of chilling. I don't know the kid, but I don't know. Jerry was such a hard worker and so much about the grit. It's hard to pass that on to your kids when he's had everything, and he doesn't look like he's kind of like he's like young cats are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get it. That's how I feel when I look at him. That I don't think he could be a grinder, but who knows? But that's something that's just within you. I mean, you guys know that. Yeah. You guys have it in you. We're grinders, and it doesn't get passed down. Either you have it in you or you don't. We'll see what
curious,
happens.
But I think to Brian's point, those are interesting because it's the same thing to quarterbacks, right? If Penix slides into the second round, almost whatever he does is going to be above and beyond. But if you trade up for him and get him at 8, he has any kind of injuries. You get him in the second round, you're like, cool. We'll set him behind so and so work. It's just so interesting how that goes. And that's why for me, I'm like, man, I hope the Raiders chill, because if you want one of these other guys and they're gone, I'm glad we got Telesco, because I think a veteran's not going to say like, oh, well, we'll just take whoever's left. I think they say, you know what? Here's who we wanted. Our guy's not there. We're going to get the best available. We wanted this lineman or this whoever, versus just like, we'll take Bo Nix. We'll take, anyone just to have a quarterback. I think that would be a mistake.
Yeah, draft for the value at the role. It always works out.
Yeah.
Does when these players get DWIs or DUIs before like a week or two before the draft, or the people who guys hang around, would that affect you drafting somebody?
Yep.
It did Jalen Carter for dang sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it would affect me too.
Absolutely would for me if I were the GM.
Yeah.
If you can't, the most important 2 months, let's say, of your entire life is right before you get drafted, because of how if you can't keep your head on straight for that long,
come on.
I'm sorry.
What you gonna do when the money comes?
You will be outstanding. Maybe you'll be Travis Kelce, who was a knucklehead in college and all that kind of stuff. But even he cleaned it up for the draft.
And his brother was on him, and family.
Yeah. Maybe everything will work out all right.
Yeah.
But that's a bet I'm not gonna make.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And here's the thing for me, right? Is like, when I looked at Jalen Carter, who looked amazing now, right? But he went to Philly, which is already in Super Bowls. They're already kind of building something. If we'd have taken him, you come to Las Vegas, we're still in building mode. You put him under Josh McDaniels, you put him in Vegas, who knows what can happen?
He might go down the same street Henry Ruggs went down, and something might happen.
I mean, straight up, rest in peace, that young lady. You put him in Miami, where I'm at. You put him in one of these other cities where the nightlife is going crazy. It's a little different. So I'm like, you go to Santa Clara, you might be all right. You ain't going to stay out the city, you might get your car bit. But you put somebody in, LA, Miami, New York, I ain't taking the risk.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, because the reason why I brought it up, because the defensive tackle Devondre Sweat got a DWI, and people are acting like it's not a big deal. And if I'm trying to draft somebody in the first round, I got to pay you millions of dollars. I'm sorry, I'm gonna need you to be some type of high character
Rice
guy
right now, bro. Look at Rice right now with KC, man. Just foolish, bro.
Yeah.
Well,
high character isn't even the requirement.
Well, yeah.
Average or better than average character is the requirement.
And now,
not of low character is the requirement. If you can't keep your head on straight for a couple months before a draft day, like I can't rock with you. You should.
Yeah. Well, speaking of
you got out of character and just straight decision making, right? Because we all know people who have a DUI who got into bats, who did some. Okay, that was stupid, but that's not him. But you man, I'm like Brian, bro. Like right before the job interview, I'm not about to be smoking on the way. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, it happened to Dak Prescott. He got one too, but I guess he's been okay in the league. But it's funny you mentioned Rashee Rice, because the knock on Rashee Rice is, Glenn, he hangs around a bunch of losers. That was the knock when he came out,
bro. I mean,
they looked like losers as they were walking off the freeway outside of his Ferrari.
And respect, right? Because we know brothers come from different areas. Wherever you are, you come from the areas. Okay, cool, you got your friends, etc. And that could bring you down, lift you up, whatever. But still, like to Brian's point, man, you talking about the biggest. And like we said about John Morant, if you're supposed to be down with me and my homies, you should be the ones like, hey, bro, give me your keys. You must be crazy if you think you're about to drive.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you can't keep it straight for a couple weeks or a couple months before the draft, Like I said, it may work out for whoever does it. It's just not a wager I'm making.
Ask Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel will tell you himself.
Yeah, I rock with EFTs, not cryptocurrencies. I need the volatility to the minimum.
Oh man, yeah, real talk.
Straight up. Word, man. Hey, that was fun, man. I think we're right about that time.
Yeah,
let's wrap it up. Give what y'all got, man. What's hella hogwash?
Brian, what you got? I don't have nothing.
I do have something, but I'll go baseball refs. It is so out of it is so bad that when I watch baseball games, and I don't watch that many, that you can have entire strikeouts without strikes. It is so bad how these umpires are calling it that I know I'm the tech guy, the group or whatever, but get rid of them and have a computer tell you whether it was a ball or strike.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I don't want it. It is complete and utter hogwash that somebody whose entire job is to figure out where the ball was, see a catcher do this and go strike. And it's happening regularly.
Yeah. I agree with it.
Add that to this season. There's been, I don't know if you want to call it an epidemic. There's been 3 or 4 times where umpires have thrown out coaches or players that they think said something. Someone else said something and they're like, "Oh, you're out," or the umpire It's happening. The problems with officiating and umpires in Major League Baseball to start the season are hella hogwash. Like it's just too damn much.
I agree on that. I do have a hogwash segment, Glenn, and my hogwash is the Minnesota Vikings. I don't believe anything that's coming from that organization talking about they want JJ McCarthy. I don't think the Vikings are that dumb of an organization, and I don't think they're bad. And they're a bad organization. They have a Wall Street guy running that, and he is smart enough to know he's not going to run around to everybody who he really wants. Or I don't think they have leaks like that coming out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
They probably do want a quarterback. I do not think it's JJ McCarthy. That's hogwash.
You already said, Coop, if it got out, it got out on purpose. Someone let it out on purpose.
Come on now.
Mine is the Los Angeles Lakers, and y'all already know why. So this is whack.
They'll win tomorrow, Glenn.
I mean, you're going, you said?
No, they'll win tomorrow.
Oh, I was gonna say that's dope.
Just to fuck with you.
Probably. Yeah, that's fine. I just know losing to 20 point. I mean, everybody knows the Nuggets, etc. Yeah, fine, but come on, man.
Yeah, you gotta hold that lead.
Yeah, we're gonna win tomorrow. That's unfortunate, but we're gonna have to watch it. It's gonna be extra painful because they're gonna be like, "Oh, they can come back."
Right.
They should have won yesterday. That was a game. That was a game to steal.
Yeah, it should be 1-1.
And then the last one, minute to win it, man. I thank everybody for listening. I'm so excited to have the draft finally, so we can be done with this because I'm so tired of reading think pieces and looking at 100 mock drafts, but I can't stay away.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for listening as well, especially if you listen to from beginning to end on who we would think we're going to get drafted in the top 10. If you can, leave a comment on YouTube or wherever you listen to this podcast. But thank you for listening.
Some might say that this next statement is antagonistic, but I want to throw out a congratulations to Morehouse for landing Biden as their commencement speaker. I think that is a huge get for an HBCU that has mostly local and national notoriety amongst people of color to get the sitting president of the United States and running for president of the United States to come speak at their commencement. There's a lot of money that's going to go their way that they truly deserve and absolutely can use. And that's a big deal. Congratulations to them. Yeah. The other thing I want to say is congratulations to Reggie Bush for everybody finally
yes,
because the man should have never have lost it. Yep. And and he should have gotten it back a long time ago.
Cheers.
I'm glad to see the support that he's gotten over the last couple of years since NIL became a thing. And I'm glad to see that finally he has his Heisman back. Congratulations to him.
I forgot about that. That's the right
and it was in my head. Thank you, B.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you.
That's the right thing to do. He should never lost it.
Nope.
Yeah, it's just that was probably hogwash.
Hogwash too. Yeah.
Hogwash, he lost it.
Yeah, he lost it. So yeah, definitely, it's good that he gets it back.
Good call, B. Perfect way to end it, man. As always, guys, it's a pleasure. Thanks for doing the show with me. And we'll catch y'all next time on the Sports Counterpoints podcast. Today was April the 24th, 2024. Thanks. Peace.